Hi, hello. This is Ethan Goins, and you're listening to The Joy of Music History with Ethan Goins. Hi, thank you for listening. I certainly am glad to see you or hear from you, and yeah, I really look forward to talking with you today about music history. And today, I want to talk to you about a very special composer to me. His name is Ralph Vaughan Williams. He was one of the most influential composers in all of England. And you might have noticed his name is spelled Ralph, but since it's a Welsh name, it's pronounced Rafe. Yes, let's get into Rafe. Ralph Vaughan Williams was born on October 12th, 1872, in Down Ampney near Wales, which is in England. His father was a vicar, and a vicar basically means you worked in the church. And fun fact about him, his great uncle was Charles Darwin, and he started to love music when he was a young man, and he was taught to play violin. That's when he first started to love music. He went to a boarding school where one time, fun fact, he got in trouble for playing violin one night and his whole dorm room started dancing. Ain't that funny? And also, he went to a boarding school because back then in 1800s England, a lot of boys went to a boarding school so they could have a good quality education. Kind of like Hogwarts, but with a bunch of boys and without the magic. I know, hard to imagine, right? Well, it's like going to an all-boys college, but they're a bunch of young boys. Anyway, when Williams was 17, he enrolled in the Royal College of Music. His family thought that, well, they just thought it was a terrible idea for him to be a music major because, they just didn't think he was that good. Anyway, his main professor was Hubert Parry, and yeah, he really enjoyed Hubert Parry. And his second year, he had Professor Stanford, who gave back-breaking lessons, even sometimes making him take organ lessons in the middle of the night. Ooh. And while at college, he met his friend and fellow composer, Gustav Holst, which, if you ask me nicely, I'll make one about him too. When he was in his 20s, he went out into the English countryside and listened to folk music and wrote them down because he thought folk music was just such an important part of English music in general. And also, while I was in college, he met his first wife, Adeline. And shortly after that, he got his PhD and became Dr. Vaughan Williams. His first symphony was a C symphony, which is an epic chorus piece with a cool clarinet solo. And he worked on it for 6 years. Wow. And he completed it in 1909. And we will listen to a C symphony, if I can get it to come up here. A C symphony. Hold on, I just want to get you guys to listen to the right part of it. That was pretty, wasn't it? Didn't you hear all the singing and the beautiful instruments being played? Yeah, something, wasn't it? And also, in 1914, he wrote one of his most beautiful pieces, Lark Ascending, which I will play for you right now. It's absolutely a beautiful piece for violin. And this one is played by a woman named Hilary Hahn. Okay. Oh. Alright, let's play it for her. I'm going to play it for you. Yeah, that really was beautiful, wasn't it? Yes, a beautiful piece for violin. And these are just some of his works, guys. I encourage you to look him up. And yeah, he wrote a lot of folk music for different instruments. And he mostly arranged these songs between 1903 and 1905. And one of his most beautiful pieces is Lovely on the Water, a song about a man who has to leave his wife while deployed by the Navy. And yeah, that's a beautiful one, which we will listen to later. Anyway, later life. Ralph Vaughan Williams was 41 when World War I broke out. And he had just written Lark Ascending, the piece you just listened to. But he enlisted in the Army anyway as a medic. And while stationed in, while in the Army, he was stationed in several different countries. His favorite was Greece. He called that one of the most beautiful countries he had ever been to. And he was also stationed in France on the Western Front. And while being stationed in France, he became friends with George Butterworth, a fellow British musician. And they became good friends. Until, in the summer of 1916, it was July, and the British and French decided to launch a big attack towards the German front lines. So the French launched an attack at the southern half of the Western Front, and they actually were very successful, taking villages and taking several thousand prisoners. Yes, they were successful, but when the British tried at the north, it was more or less a slaughter, like what war is, because The Germans absolutely knew they were coming. So when they would blow through the wire, there would be bullets just to mow those poor soldiers down. And the battle lasted for not days, but months. Months. And in that time, over 60,000 soldiers died. 60,000. That's more than the U.S. lost in Vietnam. And USA was in Vietnam for 8 years, but this battle only lasted a couple months. And they lost 60,000. And one of those 60,000s was George Butterworth. He was sadly shot in the head. And no, his body was never recovered. Vaughan Williams was devastated about this, so he dedicated the London Symphony to him, shortly, which Vaughan Williams composed shortly after leaving the army in 1919. And after writing the London Symphony, the royal family was so pleased with it that they gave him a Medal of Merit. Yes, that is a Medal of Merit. That is a very big deal. And in the 1920s and 30s, he began teaching at the Royal College of Music. He wrote famous concertos and many more pieces for chorus, and he was one of the most famous composers ever. And he also wrote a tuba concerto. Let's see if I can find that. And also, during World War II, he actually opened up his home to refugees. And here we go. Here it is, his Concerto for Tuba. Vaughan Williams' Concerto for Tuba. Ooh. Pretty cool, huh? And now I'll show you his London Symphony. Another beautiful piece. London Symphony by Vaughan Williams. Hold on, let me start over. Here we go. Yeah, feel free to look that up by yourself. That was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah, it sure is. After World War II, Vaughan Williams just decided that he had just done enough teaching. But he still wrote music, and he retired out into the English countryside, where he met a woman who was much younger than him, named Ursula, and hired her to be his wife's nurse, because his wife was getting up there in years and getting sick. And shortly after his wife's death, he married her nurse and his friend Ursula, and she was over 30 years younger than him, by the way. Yeah, real Dave Grohl move right there. And then he spent the last few remaining years of his life with her. And after writing his Ninth Symphony, a real Beethoven move right there, he died in August of 1958. And before I do in this episode, I want to show you another beautiful piece by him. Piece that really means a lot to me. It's very near and dear to me. It's called Lovely on the Water, the folk song that I told you about a man who has to leave his wife behind because he's being deployed by the Navy. And hold on, this is performed by somebody I know. This is performed by somebody. Oh, it's performed by me. Yes. Hold on, I'm showing you guys this video of me. That's the F sharp minor scale, because this piece is an F sharp minor. All right, here we go. Well, I guess that's all I'll show you of that. And thank you for listening. And it really does mean a lot to me. I sure had a fun time talking with you today. And I certainly hope you enjoyed it. And I certainly hope to see you again. And please look into Rafe Vaughan Williams if you haven't already. Really listen to his music. And yeah, I'm sure George Butterworth will be very proud. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.